Hello, everybody. Welcome. Oh, wow. Perfect timing with the music, too. It's fading away. We're here. And welcome to Rubber Duck Thursdays, the show where we talk and stuff. I should have more of a better intro for this, but here we are. Anyway, hello. I see some friendly faces. Hello. Welcome. How's it going? Hi. Welcome to Rubber Duck Thursdays. Oh no, you committed a .env file and made the hot repo public? Oh no, that's not good. How y'all doing? Happy Thursday. We are off for the holidays after this until the new year. And so this is the last Rubber Duck Thursday where you can chat with us on the GitHub team, share your questions, comments, concerns, complaints, jokes, whatever. But anyway, welcome to Rubber Duck Thursdays. Tell me what you're working on. I would love to hear about it. I have been personally trying to blog every single day myself, which has been very cool and a lot because you always start like whenever you do a series. I don't know if y'all have experience with this. You are like super motivated at the beginning, and then by the end, you're just like, I don't know what to write about. And so I've been doing what I call blog vent, kind of like, there's advent calendars, but blog vent. And so every single day, oh, I forgot to share my screen. Every single day I have been blogging. And this is my blog. I'll plop it in the chat here if you want to see it. But I've been trying to post every single day just about things. And it's been good. It started as like technical posts because it was stuff that I was actually doing in terms of code. But I haven't had as much time to code in recent days. And so there's a little bit less of that. Now there's just kind of like fun things. There's projects. There are some technical things that I've been wanting to write about. Yesterday, I truly just did things I wish I could study if I had more time, which it's an actual just note on my computer that I've had of things that I wanted to study. But it's been a good writing exercise, and that's been generally what I've been working on lately. You're working on turn servers for WebRTC and using Cloudflare's real-time SFU. Jeez Louise. That's a lot. What does FSU stand for, or SFU stand for? I know I've seen it. I could also just look this up. 1 second. I'm going to just look this up. Real-time SFU. Serverless audio, video, and data applications. Why do they use that acronym? What does SFU stand for? It doesn't matter. Letters are all made up. But that's cool. Let's see. Whoa. What just happened? Anyway, I use datetime.now instead of datetime.utc now. Nice. Any highlights from the game off with certifications with GitHub? So any highlights from the game off? There have been some really cool ones. If you've not seen the GitHub game off, I'm going to pull it up so you can see it. The GitHub Game Off is a game jam that happens every year. I think this year was the 13th year. The theme was waves. I made a game for it, which was fun. And let's see. Yes. And so you can go to github.gameoff.com to see it. But people are voting now. And so you can see the different games that people have made. There's so many interesting and cool submissions. I wish I remember all of them in my head. Oh, wait, things I have rated. Oh, yeah, I've rated a bunch of interesting ones. I thought this one was very cleverly done, where it was like depending on the different elements that you get, you could go past certain obstacles, and that was pretty neat. There was one that was really spooky. Where was that one? Oh, yeah, the Waves from Beyond. This was really spooky, and I was frightened because you were like in like a cabin in the woods, and there were different sounds, and as you navigated through, it was really scary. I was frightened, but that's a good thing. This one was challenging for me to play, where there was like the Bermuda Triangle, and you would run out of fuel as you tried to navigate around it. There were some really cool highlights. I actually have more to rate, but that is the GitHub Game Off. If you want to play some of the different ones, it was a very cool one. Let me see this next question. Which certifications does GitHub have? I have lost track. There's a lot. GitHub certifications. Let's pull it up. Showcase your expertise. Oh, right. Yes. I know this website. Let me plop that in the chat so you can see, and I will put it up here. This one, learn.github.com. And so there's a GitHub Copilot certification. The security one is one that a lot of people do, particularly if you're in like DevOps and wanting to know more about security. GitHub Foundations, I think, is a particularly good one in terms of just like, open source contributions and stuff. GitHub admin, I think that's more for like IT professionals and not as much developers, but that's we'll pick your poison. And then GitHub Actions is for like CI/CD pipelines and making workflows happen. And so anyway, these are the different certifications that we have. They're cool. I admit I haven't actually taken them myself, and so I don't know what all is in there. I couldn't give you any tips, but I know that a lot of people ask about credentials on occasion. So that is the GitHub certifications question. Let's see. Is the GitHub mobile app useful for more than just authentication? Yeah, I know some people do it just for like reviewing PRs on the go and stuff. I like to do. This is like my millennial take. I really like to do important tasks on a big screen. And so whenever I'm looking at code and stuff, I tend to do it on my computer. And so I don't really use the mobile app myself, but I know we do have like some maintainers who swear by it and they navigate their repos and everything in the mobile app. So it's kind of up to you. Yes. Let's see. I made a PR review simulator for the game off. Oh, cool. Oh, that's awesome. What is that the name of the game? Is it literally called PR Review Simulator? Because I want to look it up. That sounds fun. Is this beginner friendly or more focused on intermediate and advanced dev workflows? I think the Copilot one is the most beginner friendly one. And Foundations is more beginner friendly. Advanced security actions and administration are more intermediate advanced. I think, like fairly certain. What do we do in this stream? I answer your questions. I chat with you. Sometimes we code if we have time. So welcome. How does the GitHub MCP server work? I love that you asked. 1 second. GitHub MCP. Let me pull it up because we have a whole dedicated website for it and repository. So yeah, check this out. I'm going to put this in the chat as well. Your game is called Approve, Please. It's inspired by Papers, Please. That's amazing. I love that. Okay. The GitHub MCP server. And so for those who don't know what MCP servers are, MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. And Model Context Protocol, it has like this fancy name. All you really need to know is it calls APIs and tools for you, and you can integrate that into your AI agents and sessions. And what's particularly nice is that means that you can call deterministic tools in your non-deterministic tools. And so like, for example, with the Playwright MCP server, I can use Playwright to take screenshots of things because Playwright is a tool for like testing, visual testing and screenshots, if that makes sense. And so the GitHub MCP server allows you to do GitHub tasks where these are like the use cases that they list. When I point over here, I'm looking at my second monitor, and when I point here, I'm looking at the chat. So if you're wondering. But anyway, what is particularly nice about the MCP server is that you can navigate GitHub with AI agents with the server, and it's automatically built into Copilot stuff. And so if, for example, you want to triage issues or manage pull requests or just do your code reviews and stuff, you can do that with the MCP server from your AI agents. If you want to monitor GitHub Actions, I think it says that in there. Yeah, you can monitor like GitHub Actions and be just like, okay, why did this build fail? What does this development pipeline look like? It's using GitHub in AI tools. And so that is what you can do with the server. These are some of the use cases here. There's a lot more. A lot of times when I use it after adding it to VS Code, which is relatively straightforward, these are all the docs for it in this GitHub repo here. What I often do is I'll say like, okay, list out my issues, and these are the different tasks that I want to do. How should I prioritize them? Sometimes it's like which you could say, for example, which issue has the most comments, which issues seem more pressing. You could even like figure out how you want to prioritize certain things based on certain factors and stuff, all while using it. Yes, you could use your brain, but it's nice to have those tools built in, which is nice. How do you effectively manage issues and pull requests in large projects? Great question, because it really depends on the project. I know for myself, my projects aren't massive, but some of them have like a few hundred stars. And for those, I honestly, the main thing to do that's very helpful is have contribution guidelines. Where, for example, let me pull up one of my repos really quick. Let's see. I think this one is a good example. This one has 2K stars. If I were to go to the README in here, I think I have some contribution guidelines in here, which I should actually put this in just like a contributing file. But sometimes people just add PRs where I have no intention of putting them actually in my app because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't do what I want it to do. And so these are some questions that I have where it's like, okay, does it fix any bugs? Does it break any things? Does it stick to the original goal? Does it reduce the build size? It's just all that. Having contribution guidelines is great because then you can direct people to them. And so if, for example, I get a pull request on something where another example, I've actually triaged issues on this repo before, Pocket Cal. This is another one of my apps where it's just like things. It's a scheduling app in here. Sometimes I get pull requests where I don't necessarily need it, where I have contribution guidelines here, and this one, this person is just like tinkering around. No hate to them. They've like messaged me before saying, "Hey, I'm going to make some PRs just because I'm messing with certain things." I don't necessarily want this feature in my pull request or in my app. So sometimes I'll look at it, look at different things, and there are times where I will say like, "Hey, if you refer to the contribution guidelines, this is why I'm closing it. I appreciate your help. I appreciate your contribution." That's it. But anyway, that is generally how I manage things on my like projects that are a little large. They're not nearly at the scale of like Home Assistant, for example. I don't know if you've seen Home Assistant GitHub. They're one of the largest open source orgs on GitHub, I think, or at least one of the most contributed to projects. Where if you were to go to their core, they've got 2.6K issues. They've got almost 600 pull requests. There's so many things in here, and they have like some of the most contributors in open source. Like they really manage a lot, and so as a result, they need to have a code of conduct. This code of conduct is exactly what they expect and have standards for. They also have a contribution guidelines, and this contribution guide is like, this is how to get faster PR reviews. These are suggestions. These are the steps that you do. Keep an eye on issues, that sort of thing. And so once again, if you have the documentation, that is the best way to manage issues. That being said, I work at GitHub, so I should probably mention Copilot code review is a thing. GitHub Copilot code review. There's an actual tool that you can use from GitHub where if you want it to like review PRs for you, you can have the GitHub Copilot code review agent review your pull requests, and it is helpful. It's nice. And there's actually a really nice blog post. Let's see. I think Angie Jones code review. Angie Jones wrote a really good blog post where how I taught GitHub Copilot code review to think like a maintainer. This is a really great blog post. I'm also going to put this in the chat here. One second, pasting it in here. I will be bleh, if you would like to go to this. But anyway, um, she talks about like the types of prompts that she gave the code review agent so that it could help with reviews and not just add another step. And so that's another way to manage pull requests and issues. But there's a lot of different tools out there. There's a lot of thought pieces out there, but good documentation. And then if you want to use AI tools, effective prompting can get you pretty far. Let's see. Do you recommend a separate branch strategy for different types of contributions? Yes. And the end. Just kidding. Typically, if you are contributing to a repository, I personally think that for every feature you want to make, whether it's a new issue on an open source repository or even in your own personal repos, having separate branches per feature, I think, is very, very essential. A good example is I mentioned my Pocket Cal repository. Where was that? This one. There was a pull request that I got relatively recently that it just had so much scope creep where they were just like, oh, I'm going to be solving for this issue in the repo. But then they added so many other things that were nice to haves, but that adds context switching in a code reviewer's set of tasks that they have to do, because when you are reviewing a pull request, you kind of just want to say, what is this covering? What issues is this pertaining to? Great. And if you end up doing all of your changes on the exact same branch, then you end up having massive pull requests or like weird conflicts if you were to like make a pull request and then like close the pull request, close the branch, merge things in, and then do it again on the same branch. It ends up being weird. There's a lot of like branch issues that can happen. Anyway, that's a lot of words when my direct answer was just yes. Separate branch for different types of contributions. I agree. Let's see, where can you get assets? Do you mean like game assets? I know that we were talking about game stuff before. Personally, if you want just a quick personal recommendation, I really like Kenny assets, Kenney. I'll actually put that link in the chat as well. Kenny is really good at making really nice free assets. That's what I used for my game for the GitHub Game Off. And he has a bunch of tools and stuff that he made too that are very nice to use if you want game assets there. I'm curious how to collaborate on certain projects. I'm working on my second API pipeline for Playwright. Cool. So could you give me more details about what you mean, collaborate on certain projects? Like you want to contribute to open source, or you just want to use Playwright more? If you could clarify, that would be handy. Let's see. Could you please give some insights on GitHub Copilot and any license required? Sure. So let me pull up github.com. I think it's github.com/features/copilot. Let me just check before I share my screen. Wow, I'm a genius. Okay, GitHub Copilot /features/copilot. I will put that in the chat right here. Waha. This is GitHub Copilot. You can get a license. It is actually free. That was something that we did about a year ago, is we made GitHub Copilot free. But look at that cute little thing moving on the side, following my mouse. That's so fun. But there are pro accounts. The Copilot CLI is really good. I don't mean to be a total shill for things, but the CLI it's good. Try it. It's been amazing. But anyway, these are the different levels of accounts. You get a lot in the free, if I'm being honest. Like I use a whole lot of GitHub Copilot, and a grand majority of my work is done under the free account limits. But you can use different models and stuff when you that are not just on the free account when you do the higher tiered ones. But GitHub Copilot has a lot of options for you. You can have it do smart autocomplete, but you can also chat with it and ask questions. You can ask like, hey, why doesn't this work? That's a very common one that I use. And actually, I see there's this question: what are GitHub Copilot use cases other than code generation? Asking questions to it is great. Being able to, again, turn on like edit mode so that way it can edit some code and you can see how it works. Great. Agent mode is where you just say like, make the changes, run the commands, I'll watch, and you can make it run and then go make some coffee and then come back. The CLI, you can basically bring all of this agent stuff to your terminal and work in the terminal and make pull requests. You can even, one of my favorite commands in the terminal is actually just a /command/share, and that creates a gist of your like agent session, and you can share your prompts and stuff. So anyway, you can plan with it, you can ask it questions, you can write code, you can get code suggestions, you can ask why aren't things working. Again, when you pull in MCP servers, that gives it a lot more superpowers, where again, the GitHub MCP server lets you do like a lot of issue triage and repo stuff. You could look at GitHub discussions in it. Copilot with spec kit, yes, is amazing, because then you can do like spec driven development where you create specs that Copilot works with. You could use, like, for example, Launch Darkly is one of GitHub's partners. You could manage feature flags in your AI chat rather than going to the web UI. There's a lot of different things that you could do. And I should also bring up the GitHub MCP Marketplace. MCP registry, that's what it is. GitHub.com/MCP. That's a nice handy URL. Let me show that one. That one you can just connect your MCP servers to GitHub Copilot. And so there's the GitHub one that's already in there. Playwright for screenshots, I had mentioned that before, but there's, for example, there's so many different things. Chrome DevTools, you can integrate with the Chrome DevTools as you're running your web applications. An MCP server for the Notion API. Imagine getting your Notion data and databases and then running agents and stuff on that. Integrating Stripe, so nice. Nuxt for helping like with really specific Nuxt features in your apps. And so it's nice to have these different MCP servers. These are just like official ones in the registry, but there's, I think, around 60 in here. Oh, look, it says 58. How about that? And there's going to be more official ones added soon. You can also email them to include your MCP servers in there. But with Copilot, you can do a lot of different things besides just generate code. That is the end of that question. Okay. Let's see. Do you think maintaining a separate release branch to keep track of releases other than the main branch? That, I don't know. A separate release branch to keep track of releases means that you would, like, as you release, if you have a new branch for every single release, I don't think that's the best route. What I would suggest instead, hang on one second, if I go to, I think the React repo is here. Yeah, the React repo. This is just an example of a very large open source project. What you should do instead is tag releases, where you might have like a main branch and a dev branch, for example, or like different branches for different features. But if you cut releases at a certain commit, you'll notice right here, this is the commit where they tagged this release. Then it's all on the same branch, but it's not going to like clog your repo with tons and tons of branches per release. You just have like a moment in time, a checkpoint on that particular branch when a certain release happened. And so then you can be on that branch, and let's just say you want to roll back, then you could go to this checkpoint release and on the same branch and have that, if that makes sense. Okay, let's see. I am working on a project, concierge app, trying to React in GitHub, manage multiple commits, PRs, and updates while organizing issues. It was a hands-on experience with contribution guidelines and keeping the repo structured. I'd love to hear your tips for managing PRs and issues efficiently at scale. I kind of mentioned this already, like pull requests and stuff, having the documentation. If you're talking about managing a lot of things and from like AI, like if you had a bunch of AI agents making different features and stuff, that's where AI doesn't have to just create things for you, can help organize yourself. And so you could use, again, like Copilot Code Review or various other tools out there that help you organize your repositories in good ways. Otherwise, again, if you're just handling issues and PRs, first of all, figure out if it sounds like you have a lot, maybe you shouldn't be the only one managing all of these different things. Bring on contributors to help out. Make a call for contributors, but then also like be strict on what you expect and follow certain guidelines and be as formulaic as you can, so that as you are, hitting all of your different points and everything, you can be like, okay, I can merge this quickly, I can't merge this one, this one requires more time, and you can kind of tag things and get yourself situated. Okay, let's see. Better to use launch darkly rather than maintaining multiple release branches. Launch darkly is great for feature flags if you want to, like tag in something, flag in something rather, see how something works, great, then have a release branch or something. Yeah, a new fork for each version. That's a lot. No, don't do that. Continue to ask questions. I'm trying to keep up with the chat because there's so many different things. How do you handle contributions from multiple collaborators on the same project? Similar to what I've been saying before. Prioritize, be strict about how you look at things. Make sure you have like your quality bar set and make sure people are on the same page in terms of documentation stuff. Maintain your documentation. That helps. A lot of that helps. Addressing questions in such detail. Yay, I'm so glad that it's helpful. Is GitHub Copilot the best AI for learning to code? I think that the best AI for learning to code is your brain, which is, it's great to use these tools. I work at GitHub for a reason. I really like what we're building, and there's a lot of stuff to do here. That being said, you shouldn't rely on an AI tool to tell you how to learn something. I come up with projects and stuff that you want to build, take classes if you want, but try to build and not just lean on AI for everything that you do. I like that Copilot has like ask mode where you could be like, hey, why doesn't this work? I like that it has edit mode where it'll edit your code, but then you see the diff before committing anything. So I do think that it is a really good AI tool for learning to code, especially because, again, it's free for the most part until you add on different plans. That being said, because this is the question and I'm reading between the lines, don't lean so hardcore into AI when you're learning, because it's a cool thing to use to learn, but you don't want it to be like the type of thing where, oh no, the models are down, servers are down, something like that. You don't have the AI tool. Can you use your brain? You should be able to use your brain, So that's my main piece of advice to you. As a company person who wants to maintain my job, yeah, it's the best AI tool to use. Ha 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 ha. But also, the reality is it is an AI tool that's very helpful, but don't rely on it so much that you can't code yourself. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. To be fair, it would be nice to incorporate or deprecate various feature sets. Yeah, that's true. And that's where feature flags come into play, where it can all be on a branch, but if you have different feature flags per feature, then you could say like, okay, this was cool, it's in prod, but we don't want to include this. You turn on a feature flag or turn off a feature flag, and then that goes away. That is the great part about feature flags, and they're a very handy tool to use. Whew, I've been doing a lot of talking, but are there any other questions? This is good. I'm enjoying it. Ola. Okay. I'm considering using the Oh, hey, Zach. I'm considering using the GitHub MCP server to help grok important changes for massive PR that touches every file. Any tips for using the MCP server for this use case? Yeah. So what's great about the MCP server is that it just has all of the details of your repo that you want. And so what you could do is you could take that PR and then go to your code editor, go to github.com/copilot, go wherever, and ask specific questions about a PR, where you can say like, hey, what are the key points that, or what are the key big changes that I might need to make? Are there any rewrites in this PR that I should really pay attention to? Just kind of ask those questions that you might ask a fellow developer, where it's like, what are the things that I need to know? What are the issues that this might touch? Are there any breaking changes that might mess up with something else? The GitHub MCP server is particularly good at just knowing what's going on in your repo, and you can ask those questions in your AI tools. And so actually, let me pull up one second. Let me hide my screen for just a second. I'm going to pull up a repository as an example, so that way we can do this together and you can see what I'm talking about. One second. Excuse me. Where is a repository? This one. One second. Restart VS Code. Oh no. Okay, hang on one second. I have to restart VS Code. So please hold. You should be using your brain, should be said more often. I know, right? Is software engineer worth pursuing in 2025? Yes, and also in 2026 moving forward. I think that AI is not replacing our jobs anytime soon. In like 20 years? I don't know. But I think, or not that, not I don't know. In 20-25 years, I think that there will still be software developers, but the job will look different. What it'll look like, I don't know. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking there. Okay. Let's see. My VS Code has restarted. Let me zoom in. Let me reopen my project. Man, so many things happened. Okay. One second. Okay. So, something that I can do, I'm going to share my screen, I promise. One second. Let me just pull things up so that way I can get everything shared. Okay, one second. Okay. All right, I'm going to share my screen. How about doing hardware emulation or VDK? I am not a hardware person. As much as I like the idea of knowing more about hardware, I am simply not that. You'll try the Copilot use case. Yeah. Okay, so one second. Let me just show you an example really quick. This. Okay, cool. I got it up. What I can do is it's really hard to see that. I'm trying to zoom in on just the chat part right here. Ignore some of these things. But what I could do is I could do like at GitHub and ask it questions. And there's also a bunch of different like slash commands that you can do in here too, so you could explain stuff. But I could say like at GitHub, can you list the issues in this repository? And you do that. And look at that. And so it has like direct link to issues. Oh, wait, this is not what I wanted to do. GitHub, come on. This is a deterministic thing. Have you seen MCP setups fail because of human error rather than technical limitations? Yeah, that's where education helps. For sure. We can use AI tools, but we have to know the coding tool. Yes, exactly. GitHub, come on. Yeah. List the issues specifically. Did I not do something correct? That's possible. Oh, wait, there it is. Okay, cool. Yay. That was just me not prompting well. And so it tells me like the exact issues that I have in this repo. These are the ones that are open. Will you want help with specific issues? This is just an example. I'm not going to get into this specifically, but once you have this, you can say like, okay, tell me more. Let's see. Tell me more about how you would implement issue number 12 or something. You could do that, and then it would come up with like a workflow plan. And so look at this. It has like create a keyboard shortcuts hook. It's already writing code based on the app's functionality. Here's some useful shortcuts. All that. It's kind of nice. Yeah. And this is just an example of something that you can do with the coding agent or with the MCP server and doing like at GitHub, whatever. You can do the same thing with pull requests, and you could be just like, okay, tell me more about this. And there's also the GitHub Copilot code review agent. Oh my word, there's so many words. The code review agent will go through things for you, and that is very handy. There was also, hang on one second. My UI changed. I'm trying to figure out what is going on. This is not it. Okay, never mind. Something changed just enough that I'm not going to bother pulling up my screen. You get it. I showed you things. It's fine. Could Copilot ever replace junior developers, or does it mainly augment human coding? Augment, for sure. Like that's a 100%. It is an augmentation tool. I think that there was actually an article that came out yesterday about like the AWS CEO saying like, don't replace your junior developers with AI. There's still so much that early career developers can do that is so valuable, and AI tools are just simply meant to help you with that. And early career developers now are tomorrow's senior developers. Right now, I think AI tools particularly benefit senior developers because we already know what we're doing. And so we're just like, oh, it can do this stuff for me while I focus on this. I know this is easy, this is more complex, and you just have that experience. With people who are earlier in their career, they know some of that, but experience comes with knowing more about things, not necessarily being a better coder, but knowing more about the context of different things, what will probably fail over time, and that sort of thing. This is where, once again, these tools are meant to be augmentation tools to help you get in the flow faster, help you not context switch as much, and all of that. This is 100% not meant to replace junior developers. It is meant to help them do more. The end. Anyway, nowadays, our clients ask to use the agent integrated with Visual Studio to upgrade to the latest version of .NET Core. I hope the dev work is not manual now to develop, fix errors, and commit. It's all prompt-based. I've seen that a lot. And actually, if you're curious, I think it was last week, no, 2 weeks ago on Rubber Duck Thursdays on this stream, I interviewed one of the product managers for Copilot in Visual Studio, and she had a wealth of knowledge. And I have a blog post that should be going out soon about our conversation together, because she was talking about like, yeah, a lot of people in Visual Studio use Copilot for upgrades and for things that they just like really need to do that are chore wise, so they can focus on the meat of things. And that's been what people really care about, where it's like fixing errors that they don't want to deal with and getting to like the meat of the interesting stuff that they are better at doing. And it kind of makes you become kind of a product manager of your code base a little bit when you're prompting a lot, but at the same time, you still need to be a developer because you know when things are not going the way they should. But yeah, I personally use agents more for like getting me started with projects, because I really like coding. I don't want to stop coding because it's interesting to solve problems and have that like I'm a genius moment. We've all felt it when you build something and it works. It's very exciting. Agents are really good at getting over certain humps for you, where like my biggest problem when it comes to side projects is I have so many ideas. I buy domain names. I have a pile of domain names, but I do nothing with them at all. And I'm just like, why did I do this to myself? I had like the success dopamine feeling of buying the domain name, having this project idea, but then I don't actually do anything with it, and I get frustrated with that. What has been the best usage of AI agents for me is it gets my project started, because then I can take it and run with it. It's so much more interesting to like untangle code and like build on top of an existing code base than to start one fresh in my particular use case. Oh, and look, it's the first time in 10 years in tech that I can finish my side projects. I know, like, I've done side projects before, but I've used my domain names this year. It's amazing. Like some apps where I have one that I made earlier this year. Let me pull it up really quick. Um, it's silly, and I'm saying it right now. I'm okay. It's an app to track how often you cry. I've had the domain name ducts for this app and the idea for this app for like 4 years. I wanted to build it because I thought it'd be just kind of like a fun app to like track how often you cry. It'd be kind of neat where you can like rate it based on number of tears. You can add tags, add photos, export your data to a spreadsheet. Yeah, you can like do data viz on to give your therapist. I thought it'd be neat. I finally built it this year because I just was like, okay, you know what? I'll use AI to get me started. And it got me over the hump of setting up the repo, importing all of the dependencies I needed, all that. And I was able to just build the way I want to build. And that has been so nice. Where, like, once again, I still built this app. I still had a lot of stuff to do. But the fact that it got me across that initial hump of just getting the app started has been huge. And same with Pocket Cal. Again, I've been talking about this repo Pocket Cal of mine, and I've blogged about how I built this app in particular. I wanted to make like a simple calendar app where I select different dates and groups of dates and do stuff, and I can like name the different groups and add new groups of dates and that sort of thing and have multiple overlap and stuff. Anyway, I've been wanting to build this app for ages. I like vibe coded the initial part of it, got the AI to do a lot of it at the beginning, and then I was like, okay, now that I've gotten at least the baseline done, I can take it from here and make it great. And so anyway, I I like it. I still am a developer. I still need to do plenty, but it's nice that it's gotten me at least started. So it might not get me like from A to Z, but it gets me from like A to L or A to P, and I can take it all the way to the end. What are the best prompts to get an accurate response from Copilot? I'm just going to say it depends, but there is a website called prompts.chat, and it is very handy. And I'm going to paste it in the chat here for you, prompts.chat. And it's just a bunch of different prompts that you can use to enable your agents, your AI tools to do more. And you can say like, okay, I want specific accessibility prompts, or I want specific like algorithms oriented prompts, or I don't know, code review prompts, stuff like that. It has all of that in there, and that's been particularly handy for my team. I know my team uses it a lot. They also even have an MCP server. There was another one too, and I'm going to hide my screen for just a second. There was another one where it was like awesome something. Yes, awesome Copilot. So this repository, awesome Copilot, it's under the GitHub org. So like github.com/github/awesome Copilot. This one is all just like instructions, prompts, and configurations for prompting your Copilot to do stuff. And what's nice is when you have an agents folder, then you can use those to do specific tasks. And so let me do a quick example. Let me pull up my VS Code again. 1 second. Pulling up VS Code, and and I'm gonna do something cool. Yeah. Okay, so in your .github folder, in a particular repo, I'm doing this all live for you people, so I don't have it set up. I can make a folder in here called agents, and everything that you do in here, it's like agents. It's like your agent name .agent.md, and so let me do one where I'll call it accessibility.agent.md. In here, I can then use an accessibility agent. And so if I go to the awesome agents part of this repository, I can pull in different ones. Let me pull up accessibility expert. Let me pull that in here. Let me get the raw. Once again, I could use the MCP server, but I'm just copying and pasting to show you really quick. So I save this. It has all of these different prompts and stuff that the community has contributed to. It has a description, it has a model, it has all of the tools that it uses. I can also have a proper name for it, and call it just like my cool accessibility agent, whatever. Then when I go to the chat and go to this dropdown, check this out, my cool accessibility agent. So I could use the regular agent mode, ask, edit, plan, any of these, or if I use my accessibility agent one, then anything that I ask it to do will follow the prompt in this folder, which is really nice. And so once again, you have your .github folder, you have your agents folder inside, name.agent.md, you put it in, your front matter has your name, description, any models that you wanted to specify with, any tools that it uses. And these are tools like in the GitHub MCP server and stuff. And then the prompt. And then from there, it just works. And it's been so great where I've done this in repos where, like, once again, this is my accessibility one. I've made like a React specific one. I've made like a Vite specific one, whatever. You can put these in here and it just is automatically in your dropdown, and it's so nice. I know that I sound like a shill for my employer, but Surly Dev says it. It's freaking awesome, and it is. It's really cool to be able to have that kind of specificity, so that you can prompt it very effectively. Is there a registry for agents? No, there is a registry for MCP servers, github.com/MCP. But for this in particular, I highly recommend, once again, I'm going to go on back to github.com/github/awesome copilot, because it's all community contributed. People can make pull requests. You can contribute ones. There's a lot. There's a lot. If I click into this agents folder, they've got like thinking beast mode, sure, C# expert, address comments agent, API architect agent, Azure verified modules, Terraform agent. There's so many different agent ones. I saw someone earlier, someone mentioned Context 7. Look, Context 7 is in here. .NET MAUI, Electron. There's tons of agents in this folder, and you can use that. It's great. I recommend it. It's nice. How does that count for the chat message count? I think it just counts as a chat message. These are added into your repo, but your chats with it don't include the tokens in the agent. But don't quote me on that, because I don't remember. I'm sure it's written down somewhere, but I would have to actually do some searching that I don't have time for on this stream. But it's very, very handy, and I highly recommend it. Will it play nice offline? I know that you can add, and I don't know if it's in VS Code Insiders, which you can just get, or just regular VS Code. I know there's a way to like hook in different models, bring your own key and stuff. And so you might be able to use a local model, but I don't remember how it works. I've only done that once, and it was a very haphazard experience. So I wish I could help you more with that, but I cannot. I'm sorry. The agent prompt is really awesome. I agree. It's something that I only did for the first time relatively recently, and I was like, why haven't I done this more? It's so nice to have that specificity in there. And one of the One of the tools that I like to use is like a brainstorming tool. It's just prompts basically saying, "Don't give me answers, just ask me questions back." And so it uses like Socratic questioning, so you can go back and forth saying, "I'm thinking about doing this," and it'll ask me questions so that way I can think about my answers more. So nice to just have that integrated nice and easily. What are the pros for a specific agent? It's more just like refining the responses. And so, actually, a good example of this, um, Convex. Convex is a backend platform that's really nice. Um, and they have, let me go to their documentation. They have a AI code gen and agents documentation. This is just an example, but I like their docs around it. They have this, like using GitHub Copilot, you can add the convex instructions doc that they have linked in their documentation here in your repository so that it can make sure it is following the current documentation for convex, the current styles for convex. In terms of agents, like it has agent usage, they have different components and stuff, passing in context and everything. It's really nice to, they have an MCP server that you can tag in. When you have something like this, again, this is just an example, it's using the most up-to-date documentation and the most up-to-date styles. Right now, if you were to go into any chat, like something that I did once with ChatGPT before a lot of things came out was I said, "Could you write me a tutorial for," I forget what the tech was. I had it. It was, "Could you write me a tutorial for CodeMirror 5?" I remember now. I was like, "I want to build an extension for CodeMirror 5. It just came out. Let's go." CodeMirror 5 was just new enough that it wasn't trained in their system. And so at first I was following the tutorial and I was like, "This is amazing." But as I followed the tutorial that I had it write for me, I was like, "Why isn't this working? It's not doing what it says it's supposed to do." And I went and reached out to a human who works on CodeMirror, and they're like, "The practices you're doing are like 4 years old and actually older. You really shouldn't be doing that anymore." I had no idea, but because at the time, this was a couple years ago, I didn't understand the concept of like, oh, when it's trained at that point in time. When you have a specific agent, it uses the models that are indeed trained at a particular point in time, but it adds those refining steps and extra context that the agent needs to be able to perform better and create better work for you. Does that make sense? And so it's nice to have the specific agent stuff to help you build better and more accurate things. Are they compatible with other tools? For example, if I have an agent MT from Claude or Kiro, can I just bring them to Copilot? Yes, you can use the same ones. There are things coming out soon that I can't talk about that will make that easier. I was about to spill some beans. Just know, yes, they're compatible. Okay, I just noticed the time. I have to go. I have a meeting. But in a half hour, I will be streaming on my own channel. So twitch.com/Cassidy, this is my handle. I'm going to be streaming there in a half hour. So if you want to keep asking questions about stuff, this is my website, cassidy.co. Again, Cassidy is my handle on most things. Cassidy.co is my handle on Blue Sky. And twitch.com/Cassidy. I will be streaming there at 2:30 Central Time, US, in a half hour. But I have to go to a meeting now. It was lovely chatting with all of you. I hope this was very helpful. It was very fun chatting with all of you, and happy holidays. This is the last Rubber Duck Thursdays of 2025. We will be back in January in full force, and I'm excited to see you then. Bye.